let's do like a spirited launch here. We're gonna get this car just trying to cut me off right here, so that's cool. I'm having a better day than them because they're in a Camry right now, and I'm in this, so. All right, guys, we are here with the 68 Charger. We're gonna do a ride-along video. I love doing these videos. It's a great day at work for me. I get to get out and rip a car around, a classic car. In this case, one of my favorite classic cars, 68 Charger. Obviously, we're gonna I'm just gonna talk you through the driving experience. That's kind of what I like to do. I'll ramble on. I talk to myself in the car while I drive, and it's basically just no brain to mouth filter. I'm just gonna tell you what I'm thinking while I drive. This car is a giveaway car. So we basically just got done doing a ton of work to it. It's got about 100 miles on it. We broke in the clutch, almost all the way broken in. We bed in the brakes. We let the FiTech learn a little bit. But now we really just need to put more miles on it, so we're gonna take you along with us as we do that. All right, guys, here you go. We are gonna go just for a nice little cruise. I haven't even determined the route yet. I'm just gonna go wherever I feel like going in this car. That's the beauty of this thing. This is just get out and cruise type of car. You know, you don't have to have a destination and worry about, am I gonna get there? What does the road look like? As you see, we just came out the driveway. This car is low. We have this thing very, very low because it looks best that way and it handles kind of good that way. But it's not too crazy as far as ground clearance. I just cleared that driveway. You know, I went at a little angle because that's just kind of the habit I have. It's smoother for the car to go out that way. I'm not hitting driveways straight on. But really not a huge issue with ground clearance, even though we have this car set up really low right now. We're actually thinking about maybe adjusting the coilovers a little bit to raise the car up a tiny bit. We had it set basically exactly where we wanted it after putting all the suspension in and everything. But it just turned over 110 miles on this car since like full completion. So you guys are getting basically a ride along and kind of a shakedown video too. This is like a good testing shakedown. Put some miles on the car. Just see where we're at with everything. I just turned the FiTech screen on just so I can kind of look at some of that stuff if I want to. But everything looks good. I'm not seeing any issues there. So let's get on the freeway. This thing is warmed up now. We're at like 190 degrees. It has a dual electric fan, so I've never seen it get warm. It hasn't been too warm here lately, but it's nice out. I mean, this is the middle of January, and it's like 75 degrees out, so we're pretty spoiled. This thing's actually very, very easy to drive, even though it's a big block with a 6-speed. You just go through the gears, the shifter feels notchy, there's nothing weird about it. The car drives nice. You see there's not like a ton of effort in the steering to get it to do what you want it to do. I just got on an on-ramp that was like a double curve. I'm getting on the freeway right now, getting up to speed. This is 5th gear right now. I'm going 60 miles an hour. And then now we're in 6th. So you see we're at like 2,000 RPM. 6th gear is really nice. I'm getting up there about 70 miles per hour now. So it's all good cruising in this car. No problems there. We're heading south. We'll probably just do a big loop. I kind of like to just drive these cars around through our normal, just our normal freeway loops. You know, there's a lot of freeway here in San Diego. And this car with the 6-speed, I figured I'll probably just stay on the freeway most of the time because it's not very labored in this car. And I do want to get a few more miles under the belt of this car. Like I said, we're just going 70 right now, no problem. I love this, this whole QA1 suspension setup really changed the car. A lot of times these Dodges are all over the road. You can see like this thing is tight. You know, it doesn't wander.
It doesn't just float around like these cars normally do. It feels like you can just point this car where it wants to go. That's something we try to do with a lot of these cars. I know the last one was a truck, so there's only so much you can do as far as making a truck feel sporty. But obviously with this Charger, we went full tilt. We did like a full tubular K-member from QA1, completely got rid of the torsion bars, whole different A-arm setup, coilovers that are dual adjustable, fully height adjustable. It's got their spindles on it so that we could run big modern Wilwood disc brakes. We got 14-inch rotors with power disc brakes. So this thing also stops really well. I'm not worried about the performance of this car in a modern day situation. This car is easy to just get in and go, and it's super fun to road through the gears. So this car is not like an overpowered car. Sometimes we've built these cars that have a ton of horsepower, and it's exhilarating to drive those cars. You're right on the ragged edge. But this car has a little bit more of a get in and go type feel to it as far as the horsepower level. We're gonna get this thing on the dyno. I wanna say this is probably about 450 horse at the crank. That's not that hard to do with a big block, with a mild cam. It still has cast iron heads on it, but we have a single plane intake manifold, FiTech EFI, tubular headers. So there's some upgrades to this big block. It's been balanced and blueprinted. We changed the oil pan to like a Mileage and Road Race oil pan. That's a really big thing with these big blocks. Once they handle good and they stop good, if you're doing any kind of spirited driving in this thing, you want a baffled oil pan. That was something we kind of had to change already for the QA1. But when I was selecting a Mileage and pan, I really went for the baffled one because now this thing is able to hold a little bit of like G-forces through the turns. And if we were to ever autocross this thing, or even just take it like on a canyon run, you really want those oil baffles because these things start starving for oil, and that's when you're gonna blow an engine basically if you run this thing with no oil going to the pump. Big problem with the big block Mopar, so glad we upgraded that. This thing has plenty of torque. Like, I'm not adverse to its power level. It's a big block, so it's not a slouch, but it's not wildly built. Like, it doesn't have aluminum heads. It has a mild cam, but just doing things like getting on the freeway like that, I'm pleasantly surprised with what it does. It gets this car moving. I wasn't revving it out. I'm like right up to speed in modern traffic. I think the 6-speed helps a lot with that. You're able to kind of keep it where you want, the RPM range where it feels good, without laboring the car. So I don't know, I was a big 5-speed fan before, but this car's making me a big 6-speed fan. I think it's the combo, the big block 6-speed combo is kind of what does it for me. So like I was saying before, we put a ton of thought into things like the wheel and tire combo. Because I like to put modern sized brakes, I'm not able usually to put a 15-inch wheel. But I also, another limiting factor with the 15-inch wheel is tire selection. So there's not a lot of real high performance tires in that size anymore. And I like to put a good sticky modern performance, modern tread pan tire on these cars. You know, kind of the go-to on these muscle cars, you see a BF Goodrich radial TA. That tread pattern is probably, I would venture to say it's 25, 30-year-old design at this point. So there's better technology out there. There's nothing wrong with it. I've seen guys pushing cars pretty hard on them. But it's a vintage look because it is vintage at this point. So, you know, that's another advantage to this. We're gonna get this car just trying to cut me off right here. So that's cool. Not a lot of respect from certain people for an old muscle car, but no big deal. I'm having a better day than them because they're in a Camry right now. And I'm in this, so. All right, so this reminds me, I just looked in my rearview mirror and there's a Ford behind me. There's like a turbocharged Focus. But in the office, you guys may know Joe. Joe is a hardcore Bullitt Mustang guy. He loves a 68 Bullitt Fastback. He actually had a modern version of the Bullitt Mustang. The special edition that they re-released. He had one for a while. I know he misses that car, and he specifically asked me, hey, at some point, can you look in the rearview mirror and do like a Bullitt shout out? So for Joe, I'll be like, hey, let me make sure there's no Mustangs chasing me, because he wants an homage so bad, because this is a 68 and like the bad guy car in Bullitt was a 68. So that one's for Joe. So that's kind of a good thing to do too, is like I'll decel through the gears sometimes just to give the FiTech an idea of like how this car is being driven. Oh, I just did a no turn on red. Don't tell anybody, you guys, I just did a no turn on red. I'm just too excited to get back on the freeway with this car. I'm not used to all these gears. You can see I'm like looking for fifth. I don't want to put it in reverse. I don't think this thing will go in reverse like that, but it's all the gears. I love it. There's a truck like just pacing me. I think he just, a lot of times like you'll see guys on your back quarter panel and you're like, what are they doing, you know? But you gotta remember, you're in a car that people just love to look at. So a lot of times guys are doing that because they just want to see the car. And there it is, we have another gear to work with. Sound like a broken record, but that's what does it for me with the driving experience, and that's why I'm taking you guys along to point out stuff like that. Driving experience stuff in these cars. And that's what stands out to me in this one. A lot of the other stuff works how you expect it to work. It handles good. The tires feel better. They're stickier. The brakes feel great in this car. It has power assist, which we were able to do because this car doesn't have a big cam. So it's able to provide the vacuum needed for a vacuum booster and power assist. Kind of another added benefit to not having a wild engine in these cars. So you have nice vacuum readings, and you're able to have vacuum power assist brakes. And it complements the power steering. This car has the rack and pinion, so it has a lot better feel with the power steering. You can see like right away. If I were to do that with the old original box, I could probably get like a quarter turn out of the car and probably nothing would even happen. I wouldn't even change directions. This one's just like a tiny bit and you're changing direction. So that's kind of an added bonus to the rack and pinion. The more I'm doing these ride-along videos, I do look at the comments and I see like kind of what people ask about the car, because some of the stuff that we put out there as far as advertising, we can't touch on every detail of the car. We can't touch on our thought process when we're building it, when we're speccing out parts, components, when we're trying to make sure everything aligns as far as parts compatibility and what it's going to contribute to the overall driving experience. We don't get to talk about that a lot, so it is nice to be able to get out here and talk about it while I'm actually driving it, while I'm actually experiencing how it all works together. And like I said, this is also a shakedown run, so I would expect to find little quirks and stuff on a car that we literally just hand built a ton of components on this car. There was some of this stuff that was already done, but we changed a lot. We changed the whole fuel system. We changed all the suspension system, all the brakes, the intake setup. We changed quite a bit on this car, the steering. So it's nice to be able to shake it down. It barely has miles on it and everything's working as it should. So that's kind of nice. You know, that's always a risk we run when we turn the cameras on, and we would be real with you if something broke on the cameras or something wasn't working the way it should. You know, we're not going to hide it. We're going to tell you guys, and then we'll tell you what we did to fix it. But right now, everything's working great on this car, which makes me happy. True testament. Shout out to Junior. He helped a lot on this build with doing stuff. There was there was actually a couple things that we discovered prior to these 100 miles or so that was in it. One of the things was like a slight exhaust rattle. We noticed that when we changed from leaf springs to a 4-link, where the exhaust routes over the axle, it got really tight in there with more links and coilovers and stuff. So we did have to kind of adjust the routing of the exhaust because it was kind of banging around on the upper shock mount that we welded into the frame. I was thinking about that the day I was welding it in, you know, I had the exhaust out, and I was like, well, you know, we're putting this coilover setup in. I'm putting this upper shock mount in no matter what. I'm welding this into the frame. We'll do whatever it takes to make the exhaust work around it. I've seen other cars, even other Chargers, where they route the exhaust under the axle. Not the worst thing in the world. I just wanted to get it over the axle if we could. And we did. We squeezed it in there, but we did have to make some adjustments. So that was one thing that, like, on the initial miles was real obvious. It was like clanking on the exhaust. We got down in there, put it up on the lift, adjusted that, and right now, so far, I've been putting it through a bunch of different, or anything audible from it, so that's good. See, these brakes like really grab. They're power brakes. They feel nice and linear, but then they'll grab like right away when you want them to. We're in front of some car dealerships right now, so I always tell myself that, like, around here, you're gonna get car guys. Okay, the battery's getting low on the GoPro. Let's do like a spirited launch here. So yeah, this thing, it'll still do a burnout. It still gets rowdy, it gets down. Especially first gear, this thing just gets out, man. You gotta kind of manage the throttle if you wanna move forward in a quick manner. But I don't want to be out here like just crazy breaking laws and stuff. I'll go to a safe spot, and we're gonna have a dyno day too. The nice part about going up to FiTech and doing a dyno too is that on their private property there, they have a perfect burnout pad that has been well used, so we will get some action there. Shout out to FiTech for always accommodating us and having a good spot for us to do burnouts. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's kind of hard to see during the day, but this has, like, on the hood, the little turn signal indicators, and they do work. Really neat feature. I noticed it a lot at night. You can really see it. That's something you just don't get on a modern car. A ton of little details like that that you got to get out and drive the car to realize that it has all this stuff. It's what makes it special. I like the shifter position too. I don't know how it looks, but I pay attention a lot of times on like how close you are to the steering wheel. This isn't like a full-blown race car where that really matters as much, but I do like to be like where your hand isn't moving super far, you know? Like if you have a short shifter that's like way down here on the floor, every time you go to shift, you know, it's just like a lot more movement. This one's like, it just feels ergonomically correct. Feels like it should. It's natural feeling, I guess you would say.
Okay, that wraps up the ride along. We're back here at the office. We're gonna park this thing. It was super fun putting some miles on this thing and bringing you guys along, giving you guys kind of an experience of what it's like to drive in this thing. It's always a fun day for me to just talk exactly about what we're going through when we're driving this car, so that you get a feel for what it's going to be like when you get in the driver's seat. If you do win this car, this is a giveaway car, so your chances are greater to win if you enter, as always. So make sure you check out RestoMods.com. Thanks for watching, and keep having fun with cars.